What makes your heart tick? What spiritual path are you on? What do you believe? Let's dive deep into all things mystical, into the heart of the matter. You're listening to Deep Water with Cheryl, Earth Alchemy. This is Cheryl with Deep Water, and we're here today with Shane. Shane, how are you doing?
Wonderfully. I apologize for any background noise. It's winter here and there's snowplows doing their thing. So,
Well, I've been snowed in all week. I was out yesterday for the first time during the week. I had to go to work. But so where do you hail from, Shane?
well, right now I'm in like northern Ontario, Canada, so a couple hours north of Toronto, Ontario. I
What
did live
do you
for about 10 years there, but moved up here in 2022 and out in the woods.
Out in the woods? So you like the woods, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
better than the big city, especially with all the changes in the world over the last 4, 5 years.
I'm with you on that one. I live in the woods. I was raised kind of in the woods, but I've been to all the big cities in the US and I'm just not a fan of them. It's too much energy for me. So I would like to know a little bit about your childhood. I don't know like how what your audience knows about you. So I want to dive a little bit into your childhood. I call this the child of the cult. I'm not sure which cult, but of a cult of sort. And I wanted to dive a little bit into that. So go for it.
All right. Well, when I was about 4, I was given as a gift to become the pet of someone who is a member of what the internet likes to call the Illuminati.
Yeah.
Now, I don't. That's not what they call themselves, but the general idea, the concept is correct. It's a umbrella that basically encompasses all of the cults, all of the religions is what is incorporated in cults, but also the traditional magical systems that go beyond that or back in time from there. All the cults, the education systems, banks, all of those different things, militaries, countries, all of that fits under their umbrella. And
Hmm.
so I was given as a pet to a high ranking member of that. And therefore, kind of raised within that system. Eventually, he decided that he wanted to groom me to become one of them when I was about somewhere between 6 and 8. And so they kind of started training me at that point in time to be one of them. And I spent most of my life until I was about 26 living that way. So, yeah, to kind of talk about the childhood part of it, the Illuminati has programs, projects, and cults. And so I started in cults, which is everything I've talked about already. Projects are all of the things that they bring out into the public. So the way that they bring the ideology from the cults into the public. And then what the programs are is a lot of what's human testing, let's put it that way. Underground, if you will, off the books, black op type human testing that has gone on in a variety of different ways, which most people who probably listen to your podcast have heard about. The programs and the cults create the projects, which then come out into society. So they learn from the cults, they learn from the programs, and they take all of that learning and they roll it out into projects in society. And so, starting in the cults, they started using me in programs, and because I was, let's say, good at them, I was able
Hmm.
to I was able to adapt to them. A lot of the programs had to do with MK Ultra, things like that, and the MK Ultra programming wouldn't work on me. A lot of the different simulations they were trying to put me in, I kept noticing that they weren't real, and so eventually I ended up just participating in them kind of freely for a great number of years. But they were grooming me to be part of a project, which would be something that came out into society to share their ideology, if you will, and promote their future, is what it was. So,
Promote their future.
yeah, over the course of I don't like to talk about any of the, say, abuse. It is
Okay.
everything you've heard of. I've been used in rituals. I've been, kept in cages. I've even been through something that's very similar to the TV program called the OA, where they would kill you and then bring you back to life just to see what would happen.
Yes.
Various things like that.
I love
Um,
that one. I really did love that show, to be honest. I love the dancing in it. I think there's something to that for some reason. You know me, I like to dance. But okay, so you've gone out. The abuse, which would the pet would should clarify that for anyone. the word pet, anyways. With what we can see today with the adrenochrome and all the like the child like missing children, is that like a part of this cult or these cults, these umbrella, not just one, but all?
So for the most part, the programs use people for a very small amount of time, right? Like
Hmm.
they'll bring them in, they'll use and abuse them, and then discard them, more or
Hmm.
less, right?
Okay.
Those of us who came through the cults into the programs, usually that would be very much the same thing, where you'd kind of wash out of the programs and then just fall back into your cult or get discarded, right? Um, because that's why I said good at the programs for them. That's why I was able to bounce between the two for so long. And I don't know how to say it, continue rising up their ranks, if you will, or becoming more of an asset to them over time. And
Over
so,
time.
yeah, like I was saying, I skip over a lot of the abuse because you guys have heard it all before. It's really not necessary to linger on that. I try to focus more on what I learned through them because, you know, obviously they're building towards the future, and that's what I was always focused on. So I was given a general overview of everything else that has happened in the past so that I would understand the way that they're changing everything to adopt it to the digital age, because that's a big distinction. I actually just in my own Patreon channel, I called it like the Illuminati is what they were and the Umbrella Corporation is what they are, because there has been a very big change in the way that they do things, and my entire upbringing with them was during that change. Well, while all of that stuff, they were preparing for the internet, they were preparing for the alternative community, they were preparing for all of those things while I was growing up through them. So um, I try to focus on that, the learning that I got through it, more than any of the nefarious stuff that might have been done to me. However, it should be implied that because I was a member of them, I was doing a lot of these things willingly as well. Like they weren't forcing me to do the programs, they weren't forcing me to go to a lot of these places. I was doing it willingly because, when you're on the inside of something like that, it's a dangling carrot. They tell you you're special, they tell you you're better than everyone, and you believe it, right? And
Right, right.
just like they do, you believe it too. And I did for periods of time in my own life. The first time I really tried to get out, I was about 13, and that was when they started trying to get me to engage in rituals, like partake in some of the stuff that they do that I was never a fan of. I was fine with the programs because they were kind of like little mini adventures. We could talk about those another time, but a lot of the ritual stuff I didn't like. It's a lot of human abuse. I've seen countless people maimed, murdered, raped, all of that stuff, and I didn't want to partake in any of that stuff. So in around 13 to 15 is where they were trying to push me into doing that. And so when I was 13, it was the first time I tried to get out. And when I say that, I mean like I went to my family doctor. I had made sure that there was a police officer and another psychiatrist in the room when I told the doctor all about what was going on in my life. And I learned in a very big hurry that that was very dangerous to do. And not dangerous for me. I mean, I received my punishment for it, but it was dangerous for everybody that I involved in that endeavor of trying to get out of that. So I kind of gave up after that experience and just, for more or less, for lack of better words, became one of them and embraced the fact that that was my life now. So
So
once
the program, like you said it earlier, was like a step by step kind of thing. You would get one program and then you would move up in ranks or whatever, you know. What kind of like can you tell us a little bit what was your first step into the programs?
Well, when they put you through the MK Ultra programming, right? Because they're trying to.
Mhm.
I'm sure most people are familiar with what that is, and um, when I say it didn't work on me, that makes it sound like I'm somehow special, but I was too conscious of my self and my environment to let the fragmentation happen, and so I
Mhm.
didn't quite qualify for a lot of different things. But because I was willing to participate and I was good at keeping my mouth shut, anyways, they still kind of started dipping my toes into the programs and then escalating it from there as they started to realize that I would keep my mouth shut and that I would be an active participant. And so the programs it's a variety of different things. Like a lot of it is testing human potential. So some of it's built around, testing human psychic abilities. Other programs are based around dream studies. Other programs are based around NDEs or near death experiences, like kind of like what we talked about with the OA. Other out of body experiences that are self induced, all of the various types of magic you might think of, all kind of have their own program for training, testing, and experimentation. A lot of it having to do with they were trying to quantify it all so that they could build technology that replicated it all, which is where
Okay.
we're at today, right? And but
Right,
yeah, a
right.
lot of that was testing for that. And so one of the main parts of the programs are what I call simulations. Some of them are real world simulations where they put you in an environment and they convince you that you're somewhere you're not, and that you're doing something that isn't real, but you think that it is very real. And then beyond that, I went through personally a lot of developing of technology that's not quite on the market yet that has to do with running virtual simulations in your own mind. So this kind of stuff that you might be seeing in Black Mirror and programs like that that they're preparing us for is because they started testing that stuff a long time ago. Being able to put
Well,
you in a dreamlike state and run you through a whole scripted lifetime and then bring you back out of it.
there's an older movie, it's called Strange Days or something like that. It has Juliette Lewis and, I forget the other Nielsen or something in it. I
Yeah,
think
we have,
that was the beginning of all that, like, to bring it out to the kind of drop, fetus,
and that's an example of the type of technology that they do have. And that's like, I went through a program that tested technology that was just like that, where it was basically they would send people out to do things and it would record their experiences. And then I would go through their experiences as a way of testing their technology for them. So there was that. There's other ones that are way more in depth, like could convince you that you've lived a whole other lifetime, as an example. But you may think it's. I'm going to throw out a number just as a wink, wink, nudge, nudge to people who are into this type of research. You could think that 20 years passed when really it was only about 20 minutes, as an example. And they could convince you that you might have really gone off and done something and then really came back and they just, age regressed you or whatever that it was that they told you. But really, this is just, technology that's not very far away right now from our enjoyment. Let's put it that way. And so, yeah, that's a lot of what the programs were stuff like that. Like I said, there's lots of them. There's a variety of different. They're all kind of specialized. They're run by different organizations as well. Like the CIA has IARPA, which did them. Obviously, DARPA does them. Everything that the names that CIA with their MK Ultra program. But yeah, the programs were all testing, quantifying it so that eventually they could turn them into projects that they rolled out into the public. And so for a long time now, the entire public has been under MK Ultra programming, as an example.
Do you think that the drug culture is really deep into these programs?
Yes, yeah. Obviously, the LSD movement that a lot of people hear about now with that Chaos book coming out and the Charles Manson and his involvement with MK Ultra, like all of those things that they've been doing would all fall underneath that same umbrella. But yeah, that's social engineering is ultimately what the Illuminati does. And so they don't need to create a lot of these different cults and stuff that have popped up over the years. They just need to infiltrate them and handle them, is the right way to
Right.
put it.
So the Tavistock Institute, right?
Yeah, though that would be a project. So that's them taking
Okay.
stuff that's learned in programs and cults and bringing it out into a project. Even there was a Netflix documentary not that long ago, or docu series, I guess, about the program. I think is what they called it, behavior modification programs, those type of things. That all came out
Yeah.
of their systems as well. And then the project version of that is the stuff that we see in the public.
What do you think is the most that it's mostly mind control everybody? I mean, besides the government and all that, what do you see in the world that has people under the spell of sorts?
The technology is it now, right? Like for thousands of years they controlled us essentially with magic, which is
Mhm.
psychology for the most part, but essentially with magic, if you want to call it that. That's what all the rituals were for. That's what all their secret societies and cults and stuff were originally there for. The programs and projects are a lot more modern, like say within the last 100 years or maybe 200 years, um, because that was when they If it's magic and it's just psychology, then we're all kind of capable of it. But if it's technology, then they have a lock and key to it. And so
Right.
that's kind of the idea, was to take us away from magic, take us away from natural human abilities, replace all of those natural human abilities with technology, slowly wean us away from being human into being, you know, transhuman, as the way that we would put it now, um, but dependent on technology to do everything that we do, right? And they've built society around that model so that once again we're dependent on it, and that was the whole point, was just to separate us from anything that we could possibly control and have power with, and into being dependent on their technology to do all of the same stuff.
Do you think that the human race will tap into their own magic as far as in like body tech and natural tech instead of out into the AI world anytime soon?
Some will, for sure. You know, it's what I say is that even for the people who don't, eventually this is all going to lead them back there, because all the technology is doing is mimicking our natural technology, anyways, right? And
Right.
within us, our soul knows that. Even if our human forgets that, our soul does know that. And so for, generations in the future of humans who may have gone totally into the transhuman world, they're eventually going to go, wait a second, we can do all of this stuff. We don't really need the gadgets. We don't really need these, and bring themselves back to that. And then for now, as we move forward, people like yourself, people like me, maybe a lot of people listening to this are probably going to steer away from the technology because we already know better, right?
Right,
Uh,
right. Well, some
but I
of
do
it could
believe,
be good.
yeah, a lot of it will be good, right? And the unfortunate reality is that a lot of the changes that they have planned for the future, a lot of them are very good, even from our eyes. Looking after nature a lot more is a like kind of the foundation of their whole religion, right? So the whole new world religion of what they're going for. And so that's where the 15-minute cities and nonsense like that comes in, is because that's to separate us from nature long enough that nature can replenish itself. And
Right.
that of itself on the surface sounds good. However, once you're in that 15-minute city, there's a bunch of problems that exist that aren't so good.
So you're talking about Agenda 2030 now. They've changed it from 2020 to 2030 now.
Yeah, where did it start? Wasn't it like early 2000s, like 2012 or
Yeah, yeah,
something?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. They've changed the name of it since, because they keep bumping it back to, like, 10 years.
that's always
But,
been it. Like the closest organization to what they had planned was the WEF. And I've
yeah,
always
yeah.
said, I'm pretty sure the WEF is kind of, they have this tendency to scare the bejesus out of us, and that because they don't ever intend to go quite that far. And so, if they keep saying you're going to be in the pods eating the bugs, right? They keep saying that, we keep looking for that, but they keep moving us closer to that. But as long as they stop about here, where we're not actually in pods and actually eating bugs, it's just a couple steps removed from that. We barely notice all the steps that are happening in between,
Right,
and
right, right, right. Slowly, like, slow drip over time, get it there and just, and then we're
yeah,
there, we don't even realize we're there, so
exactly.
with the magic, let's talk about your magic and what you're doing with magic nowadays.
Well, I teach my own magic class that is kind of my own. I don't know. The best way to put it is I basically did with magic what Bruce Lee did with martial arts, because I was trained in a variety of different types through all the different cults. They all kind of have their own traditional magical system. They all think they have the right one or the only one, right? But
Yeah.
I was able to learn multiple of them to understand that they all work for the same reasons, right? They're just different pathways to get to the same place. And if you understand the how and why things are working, then you can kind of create your own. And so that's what I ended up doing. And that's a big part of how I protected myself from them while I was with them, was because I started to understand how to protect my own energy, how to protect my own thoughts from them, how to protect their influence on me, to protect myself from their influence on me, things like that. And so over the time, I, you know, simplified it as much as possible, and it's really not that complicated, and it shouldn't be. But that's kind of what I teach people, and it's based around imagination, will, and conviction. So imagination being our ability to imagine things both visually and conceptually, getting in touch with things like our shadow, our subconscious, if you will, uh, other aspects of our psyche so that they're all working for us instead of against us, kind of our thoughts. And then the will part is about our energy field because every living thing has a field of energy around it.
Mhm.
And that
Yeah.
energy field has properties to it that are universal. And if you understand how and why it all works, then it will work to your will. It does what you tell it to. Unfortunately, all of our traditional magical systems are based on um, something that's a bit parasitic. And so we all have a bit of a parasitic energetic relationship with each other that's
Oh
not,
god.
we don't mean to be cruel to each other in any sort
Mm.
of way. It's like the parasitic may sound harsh, but we do take from others and we do push into others. And there is a relationship there that we probably wouldn't like if we really truly understood it. Right. But there's ways to circumvent that relationship as well, where you can still do all of the same things and be in touch with everything that we are in touch with without having to take from other people or pushing anything into other people. And so the will part is just it's a different way of playing the energetic game, is what I teach.
And
And
the
then,
will part is a really important one too, because a lot of people in the spiritual community doesn't understand that you have to give consent, right?
yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of things that are built into our community that perpetuate the parasitic nature of the energetic game as well, right? Like even the most simple one, raise your vibration. What does that mean? It means you're creating more energy, you're creating energy that's faster and more of it. Well, where does that all go? Well, it radiates out of your energy field and it goes into what we might call the ether, and it gets eaten by all the same people who told you to do that. So, and they're not doing it so that you will do that because they don't understand that that's the relationship that they are also taking from it, right? And we don't need to do those things. They all work, right? Like all of the traditional magic systems, they all work, but there's a how and why they work. And if we understand the how and why it works, we can be a lot more responsible. Which leads us into conviction, because in conviction, it's convincing ourselves of a reality, right? The placebo, the nocebo. That is how we create reality. So conviction is convincing ourselves. It's sometimes called confidence. It's sometimes called faith. It's sometimes called belief. But if it is real, then it is conviction. And yeah, there's a bunch of different things that were shown by psychopaths, sociopaths, and narcissists that lead to conviction that we have a kind of, yeah, a dirty look of because they show it to us in a very dark and dirty way. But if we were to take those tools and knock the dirt off of them, could realize that we can use those same tools on a much more solid foundation. And that there's a reason why they make that all look dark and dirty. It's to scare us away from using it. And yeah, so that's kind of what I teach over the course of the whole class.
Do you think these high level elites, not just like the ones we talk about, like the Rockefellers, the Clintons, all this stuff, do you think there are actually elites that are way higher than these people that we don't even know about?
Yeah, if you've properly made it within the Illuminati, nobody knows your name.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
Do you think that they use planetary magic, not just magic, but planetary magic in the grand scheme of things?
Absolutely, like, they have a much better understanding of those cycles than we do, right? And, they use them to their benefit, and they
Yeah.
use them against us in other ways as well. Even, not even just those cycles, but weather cycles, the cycles of the planet and things like that, our own biological cycles, obviously, right? And so, yeah, they understand us better than we understand them, and that's how they just manipulate the crap out of us because it we let them at the end of the day. Unfortunately, not every I'm not speaking to the audience when I say this. I'm just talking about
Right.
humanity.
Right. So go back a little bit back into your teenage years. I'm sure is that where you started your music? And was that a good and when you started it, was it a good outlet for you?
Well, the first band that I was in, I was kind of already at the point where I was transitioning out of um, the order, if you will, like transitioning out of the Illuminati. That took from the time I was 19 until the time I was 26 to do everything they needed me to do.
Mhm.
Um, so that it was during that time that I started the band, because that was actually, well, didn't start the band, I joined the band. My original thought was to try and teach, if you will, or share my experiences, use that as an outlet for all of this that way, right? To write
Mhm.
it in lyrics, and I did, right? Like, if you were to go back and read the lyrics for the first 2 albums we did, then you would see that's what it's called. The second album's called Incarnate. So the first one's called Gathering Mindsight. So it's all through there, and even a lot of the stuff that has happened in our world, I was talking about back then, early 2000s. Um, so yeah, that was the first idea to share it in any sort of public way would have been through that. And I mean, I still do music, and for the same reasons, I guess. Like I still write lyrics the same way, but that was the first idea. Yeah.
And since I first heard your story, I think it was, you were on Unslaved, maybe 2016, 2017, somewhere around there. I can't remember exactly the year, something like that. But how's your life changed since you've come out with your story like that?
Oh man. Well, so I wrote the blog. A little bit of backstory, I guess, before that. While I was still working for them, the last job that I had actually involved watching this community, like the early, you know, I don't like to mention names, but the early like Project Camelot days, as an example.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Right. So back at the very beginning with bases and Project Camelot, and it was still coast to coast, and we had a few like speakers and researchers around before that, but that was when it was all kind of coming together. And so my
Mhm.
job at that time was actually to watch that community kind of growing, and I was writing reports for them and all of that. And for me, it was all kind of a bit of a joke because of what my background was and how silly a lot of that actually is. But obviously, there's a lot of truth, or the truth is buried within all of it, I should say. So that's how it started, and I started talking to some researchers behind the scenes to try and steer them away from rabbit holes they were tripping down, if you will.
Letter.
And well, many of them really. Uh,
You're right.
one of the biggest things that I was trying to steer everybody away from ended up being QAnon, because like
Mm.
that was a lot of damage for the community that was being built. That is like when I say a lot of damage, it's not going to ever recover. That destroyed the community, in my opinion, and it was because everyone
Well,
bought it. Anyways, that's a whole other.
I didn't buy into it, so
I
I
knew
thought it was weird. Yeah,
way too much buying into that went on. But anyways, that was something that I started warning researchers back in like 2008, 2010. Ballpark was coming because Anonymous had just happened, the Wall Street stuff, and I knew that they were going to use that same model somehow against us, where they were going to try and basically turn conspiracy theories into domestic terrorism. And that was the idea back then, was to make it borderline illegal to perpetuate conspiracy theories, which we saw a lot of start to come into effect around 2020, right? So, but prior to that, that was what that whole movement was meant to do. So things like that I was doing prior to ever even imagining speaking in this community in any sort of way. What had happened was I spoke to David Wilcock for a long period of time, right around the time he had met Corey Good, and the conversation about the cosmic disclosure was there, and I didn't want to do it. And then when they came out with the whole sphere being alliance and blue avians and everything, I just couldn't keep my mouth shut. But around the same time, I was writing a blog for former Illuminati members that was kind of fictionalized, but I was writing it in blog form because it saved me writing a dozen emails every day, and would I had like a series of topics I planned on running through. But I started writing the blog and posting it, and because I called one avians and Blue Avians was blowing up, people went like this. And I woke up one day to like thousands of emails and just a mess of like views on that blog. It went from like 13 to 20 to like 100,000 overnight. And that's where that all started. And for the first year of that, I wasn't going to do interviews or any of that. And someone convinced me I should. And so I flirted with that idea. And, but yeah, it's something I never intended, and it's something I just don't want. So ever since then, I've been doing my best to just dwindle my audience. One point in time, I just disappeared for 2 years and let everyone forget about me, and then came back without advertising it. That way, nobody even knew I was there. But yeah, I don't get along with the community for the most part because I kind of ruin their big sexy story in a lot of ways.
they all love a sexy story, don't they?
Exactly.
What do you think about Jade Helm?
That was a while ago now. I barely
That
remember what
was
it
a
was.
while ago.
But that, yeah, just another example that was where
Yeah,
things started to get out of hand when it came to the way that we were sharing information and not really quite learning from what we were sharing.
right, right. I think it was something to do when I saw it going on, I was like, "This is something to do with they're watching people to see how they react is what's going on here." That's what I thought.
And that that reaction created a kind of cascade effect, lands us where we are now with nobody fact checks themselves, right? The fact checkers bastardize fact checking so badly that people don't even bother fact checking themselves anymore. The
I'm
best
guilty.
example is the Elon Musk's Super Bowl commercials that never were, right? Because my social media was just blowing up. Everybody's watching the Super Bowl for the Doge commercials. There was never going to be any Doge commercials. That came from a satire site that somebody reported like it was news, and the alternative community blew up in a hurry, right? So, and yeah, that's the kind of stuff, and that's why I have kind of given up in any type of real thought that I can help this community or really do anything of effect. I just don't
Is
think
that
people
what led you into, fear and hopium?
kind of, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I know a lot about this stuff. Obviously, there's truth to everything, and I mean, it's all fair game. I make fun of myself in it too, right? So it's not like my intention isn't to make fun of people in the community or anything like that. I'm trying to make fun of the community itself, what we've turned it into, because you have to understand what this is like from people from an outside perspective. We want to wake people up to the truth, right? Maybe we get through to someone, and then we're like, oh, here's this community, and they come in here and they're wait a second, flying blue chickens, what's going on in here? Right? Like that's the room that we've built, and that's a problem. It's a problem I
everyone's
was
ascending.
yeah, and so that's why I'm doing it, because that way it's you know hopefully will make us remember never to throw the baby out with the bathwater as well. And hopefully you laugh because it is all quite funny, right? And if we can't be
I think
laughing,
it's hilarious.
yeah, if we can't be laughing at ourselves, we're missing a point here.
What do you think that could help this community, as far as in some kind of change? Like, we have I feel like it's been a big mishmash of a lot of communities. Like there's the anarchists, there's the spiritual, there's the conspiracy, there's the vegans, and they're all in one little room arguing with each other, about who's right. What do you think would help this community?
I don't know that it can, to be honest. Like it's been my kind of goal over the last 10 years, and I've seen lots of other people with that same goal, and I don't think we've done anything of to fix it or stop it or circumvent it in any sort of way. I think it's just continued to get worse. But what every individual can do, we are the media now, right? They're telling us that you are the media. And
Right.
that's true. And so you have a responsibility to be better than the mainstream media was, and that's what the alternative media got wrong. Is they started following all the same tactics, doing all the same nonsense that the mainstream did, and it turned it into the alternative mainstream media as it is. I wrote that right into the blog 10 years ago. So that was the plan, was to get us to do that. We do it to ourselves, right? And so all we can really do is just as individuals remember to be responsible. Fact check yourself, right? Stop looking to affirm everything that you want to believe, because we live in a reality buffet right now where you can do that with anything. It doesn't have to be the truth. Anything you want to believe, you can find proof of if you go on the internet today. And that's dangerous, which means that we have to be not just skeptical of our world, but skeptical of ourselves as well. And remember what the process is. Think, feel, act, right? We
Right.
definitely need to bring the trivium method back into the education system. We have to remind people that is an order to things, because what they've done is they've put us in a place where nobody knows what to believe, and when you don't know what to believe, you stop knowing what right and wrong are. You forget what good and evil is. Everything is that shade of gray. And
Yeah.
so yeah, and that's where they've got us, and that's why it's dangerous.
Yes, when you don't believe anyone, when nothing you've ever been told is the truth. Everything's been a lie, then everything is a lie.
Exactly. Yeah.
And and that's been a big fight with me over the years, is like, should I not believe my own eyes, with certain things because someone else says it's not the truth? And I'm so stubborn. I mean, you might know how a little bit of stubborn I am. I'm like super stubborn sometimes, and I'll butt heads with people in this community over the years, and I'm still like you, where I don't think that we've really done anything to improve the community. And that's just why I wanted to bring some of these old school people back, because we actually had a purpose. It wasn't just arguing online on who is right and who's wrong. It was like more of like coming together, like, look, this is what's going on. And I think that I don't know. I would like to have hope, but I'm kind of same with you. Like I'm just gonna put myself out there and tell my truth. And if people don't really understand me or what I'm trying to do, then oh well, right?
I had a
So
lot of hopium about this community, to be honest. Like even before I wrote the blog, any of that, I even helped with a podcast that was just exposing this stuff, right? Because I believed, even when I used to work with them, I used to argue with them that this would never work. That if you really do give them this freedom of information, the freedom to share all of this stuff, and allowing them to sweep up all these dirt piles the way that they are and share it the way that the internet will allow it, they're gonna figure it out. They're too smart for you. Like they're smarter than you think that they are. But we've proven me wrong. All of that hopium that I had. I've watched them be right over and over and over again.
well, they just know how to manipulate the subconscious mind of masses. Like I like right now, like I'm watching like Facebook and everyone's so angry all the time on Facebook, and they're always trying to like just rah, yeah, do this, and they're mad at the world. And I'm just like, man, I don't want to live my life like that anymore. I just want to just live my life. And that's what I decided to do. And I'm much happier than trying to fight the evils of the world in a sense. There's a couple evils that I'd like to fight, but I have my own personal agenda in that case. But as far as in like to get out there and be like, Illuminati this, chemtrails this, and food this, then I'm gonna die mad all the time. I don't want to be like that.
And that's what they want us to be doing, right? They don't want us to be living. They want us to be
Right,
doing that. They don't
right.
they don't want us to, yeah, be we're supposed to take all of this information and then figure out how to exist in our environment with it, right? And not just continue ranting about all of this information because that's not the point. That's what they want us to do. But if you're not living your life, then none of this is helping you. And that's what I say about my class. It's all very simple. It's a lifestyle. It's not about doing magic. It's about being able to live and enjoy being human and like get away from all of the stuff that is telling you that being human is bad and all of your everything about you is evil and it's all because of
Right.
guys and it's all because of those guys and all of that
It's all
nonsense.
original sin. You're so dirty.
And yeah, it's all parallels to other things, but that's if we're actually learning, we should be doing better. And yeah, proof is in the result.
Right. So like this the war of the sexes that we find ourselves in. I know you've had a hard time over the years because of it just as much as I have, with the dating, the men, the women and men fighting back and forth. What do you think? I know that's one of their agendas. That's probably one of the main parts of the agenda right there. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean it's a big part of it ties into a lot of different parts of their agenda, like breaking up the family unit. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with transgender people, but like the the ideology behind all of that, being able to really
Hmm.
push that through to people, has also been facilitated by that war because a lot of young people are kind of hitting puberty, seeing that war and not wanting to engage, right?
Right.
And if you can kind of be fluid, then you can not have to engage, right?
Well, then
So
you just play both sides.
it's like a,
So
a form of solipsism, really. But anyways, yeah, it's that agenda was started a long time ago now, and the proof is in the result with that, where the effect is, right? The birth rates are coming down. People don't aren't getting in relationships properly. We have people, banging 100 dudes while pregnant. We have and people on the internet celebrating that, and the whole world of sex has been perverted. But that
oh
was
yeah.
all deliberate because it is a very powerful tool for us. It is a very powerful creative force that we all have the ability to enjoy. And to pervert that and turn it into porn and everything that they've done over the years is just, it feeds a lot of different agendas, not just one.
Right. So do you think some of the points as the far as in the not the feminist movement altogether, but like some of the points were say for instance women in their bodies, how they want to feel free in their own bodies, and they really can't feel that way because not so much because of men, but because of the agenda of the perversion of sexuality.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
That's it, right? Problem, reaction, solution, and then the what they call it, the Hegelian dialectic, like
yeah.
the schism between two countering agendas, basically, as well, both doing the same thing. And yeah, I mean, hearing stories from people who are just starting to date now, it's horror like that, especially for men. I don't like, I hear probably more horror stories from men because with women, there's a lot of open doors. If you're an attractive person or you know how to use filters, then there's a lot of open doors. But for men, you don't have that open doors either. I think both sides are having just as difficult finding quality, but
Right,
women are,
right,
yeah, men are
right,
having
right, and
any
that's
semblance of quantity.
right, right, and we're based upon different things, like, women are really based upon their looks where men are not. So, maybe men are now realizing how much looks are coming into play now that women have the filters, this and that, you know what I mean? So, it's a little bit like it's different. It's since when I was, younger, it wasn't hard to date then, now even in my age, it's like, and then I'm sure it's the same with for men. It's probably harder for men because women are, a little bit more pickier than men are. So,
Yeah, like the studies are coming out where it's like what the top 2 to 3% of men are getting all the women on dating apps, right? So yeah,
and
it's
that's
pretty
part of their
obvious.
agenda. The dating apps. I mean, the dating apps is like most women that I know. I mean, like not that I know these women, but I've researched the feminist movement and looked into it just to see what they're talking about. And like a lot of women aren't even on these dating apps. A lot of women that want actual partners don't even get on the dating apps because they don't see it other than a hookup culture. So the men that are complaining about the women on the dating apps, they're not even really complaining about good women. You know what I mean?
And there's a multitude of different reasons why people are going back to religion, but that's actually one of them too. Is because they realize that if they go to church on Sunday, then they're going to meet other women their age who are also going to church on Sunday, and it might give them the option of finding a woman who's more in line with their values. And
Right.
yeah,
That's
so
you're right on that. That's a big thing. I was asked last weekend in another show that I do, like from a guy, how does he meet women? And I was like, women love to dance. Why don't you go dancing? Women love to dance, and a guy that can dance, women are all about that. So
yeah,
easy
the
solution right
agenda,
there.
like I was saying, it's not going to be the pods eating the bugs, but it is going to be the like tiny little condo style living space that's all one room, and you've got partition between your bathroom and your bedroom and your kitchen, and you're in a virtual reality all the time because you're not
Yep.
traveling, you're scared of flying, whatever it is. Like there's a bunch of different things that are pushing us into that, but that's where it is. It's not quite the pods and the bugs, but it's pretty damn close. And a big part of the solution to the problem that has been created by the agenda you just brought up will be, AI bot dolls and the robots with AI loaded into them that are all just starting to get onto the market now. And that'll solve the problem for all the men who can't find women. Let's put it that way. And for the women who want a man but don't really want a man. Right? And all of those problems
This
they've
is the
created.
human body. The human body, man. That's like, the Gnostics, of course, but it really is the human body that really keeps us tied down, right?
Yeah, I mean, sh- I it's a good thing. That's what we're here for, right? We're
Yeah.
here to experience this being human and tied to this and doing these things. And when we get away from that, we get away from the magic of it all. Is what it is. In a way, it's if they put it, if it's all with something artificial and synthetic, then the love itself is a form of artificial and synthetic love. And yeah, so not the pods eating the bugs, but the tiny little living space with nanobots that put your breakfast into your belly for you, which is a
Oh,
is an upcoming reality. So
Jetsons.
yeah.
Yeah. That was kinda cute growing up when I didn't really think it would be real.
Oh, it's what Ray Kurzweil wants to do, right? The like the idea of us having nanotechnology look after all of our medicines and all of our biological systems and even our food replications. And yeah,
Yeah.
even the war between like carnivores and vegans, and all of these different social wars that are going on, they all lead to that same place. It's just that blurred line, and eventually it'll be anything goes. And yeah,
We'll get fed up with it eventually.
you and I will, but
Well,
the
some of us. I mean, some of us, but I've always been a rebel, so
yeah, I mean, many of us will, but not everyone. And I even think of like aging, like 20 years from now, if I had my choice, like you're going to go to a nursing home or something, maybe that's longer than 20 years, but think about instead of going to a nursing home, you get to live in a virtual simulation where you're 20 again.
oh, I don't know, like, I don't know, because I like to move, like, I don't really like I don't know, I don't
But what
know,
if
I
you
don't wanna
couldn't
age.
tell the difference? What if you couldn't tell the difference? And what if you couldn't move anymore?
Well, I don't know, I think I'd rather be dead. If I couldn't move and live, I think I'd rather be dead. I mean, to be honest,
Likewise, right? And that's the way nature used to do things. But
you
with our new
know?
world, that's not going to have to be necessary. Let's put it that way. But
It
yeah,
reminds me of that song, Santos and Johnny, "In the year 2525."
yeah.
So we've got about, like, 15 minutes or so left. Is there anything that you would like to talk about?
I don't know. I talk too much. Yeah, I don't know. The getting back into remembering that nature still exists is something that I think a lot of conspiracy theorists need to do. And yes, they have a lot of technology that can play with our weather and do a lot of different stuff, but nature is always going to be more powerful. And she's still there, whether you like it or not, And if we can remember that, then that can help us navigate a lot of different things. But just in our own personal lives, we can remember that connection that we're supposed to have with her. And before that gets perverted to and sold back to us as a one world religion, remembering that on our own should be important right now because we're going to have a lot of incentives to leave her behind and go into the metaverse. So,
Or to Mars.
or to Mars, yeah.
Yeah, or to Mars.
Or just
Do you
descend to 5D because humans are bad.
Humans are horrible. No, I love humans, but some humans are, they don't really they're not self-aware. They're just floating around, just reactive to everything, They're not really looking at themselves. So it's really hard to deal with them sometimes, you know?
We're very irresponsible. That's the way
Yeah,
I always
yeah,
put it. It's like we have a tendency to be very irresponsible, and to be human and to do it well requires you to be responsible, whether you like
yeah.
it or not.
Unfortunately, yes. It's taken me a long time to grow up, but yeah.
There's stages
But
to grow up.
so, like, do you feel like your magic is more powerful when you tap into your childlike nature?
Uh, it helps. The connection is always there. Our
Mhm,
awareness of the connection makes it more powerful for us, right? Technically, we don't really need to do much to enhance our connection to her. We just need to remember that it's there and get back in touch with it. So I guess my magic reminds me that it's always there, right? And
mhm,
that's why I say, like our energy, we're actually connected to the planet we're incarnated on. We're connected to the universe as a whole, and then we all have our own soul, which is its own energy source and its own memory source that is kind of our own. That is
mhm.
also connected into this field and this experience too. So it's never just one thing. That's where the Trinity actually originates, is the fact that we know it's never just one thing. It's usually a combination of three things. And in this case, that's what it is our connection to the planet, our connection to the universe, and our connection to our own soul, just like it's thoughts, feelings, actions, or grammar, logic, rhetoric, right? Computer sciences, that's input, processing, output. So it's a necessary order. And yeah, just remembering all of that can help you navigate as the world, because we're not going to stop what they're doing, right? Like the thing on our
Mhm.
community for the hopium people is you're not going to stop what's coming. It's true, you're not going to stop what's coming, but it's just what's coming isn't what you wanted. And that's why, again, going back to the whole concept of disclosure, I've been saying for the last 10 years, we're getting it. It's just not what you expected.
No,
Because
it's not the all of a sudden and then we're living with aliens in the stars.
or just the big sexy story of exactly how much alien involvement our government has and everything that's in behind that. Most of
Right.
that is untrue, and some of it's got some truth to it, but the majority of it is untrue, and it's been part of a psyop that also ties into this, right? Because if you think of humanity as a whole, we don't all like the same flavor of ice cream. So the ideology that is, say, like the Q in the LGBTQ community is no different than a, like, say, the ascension ideology in our community, or even a lot of the starseed programming that goes into our community. Ascension to 5D is a depopulation agenda. Change my mind. That is what it is, and we don't understand that because it's just the ideology. It's a flavor that we like. And the last example I'll give you is furries and super soldiers. I don't see the difference.
One likes to dance.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's I don't see the difference. What's going on with psychologically? I don't see the difference between what's going on with
I'm
this.
just messing around. So like so do you believe in aliens, Shane?
Yes, I don't.
Personally, as far as in maybe not the agendas they're pushing, but actually something there,
Yeah,
to it.
there is most definitely life beyond this planet. And I'm very well aware of that. So are the people who are in charge of running society, the social engineers, if you will, what we call the Illuminati. They're also very well aware of it. The disconnect comes in how much involvement they actually have with running our world and how much interaction they actually have with running our world. That's where we start to get things wrong.
I believe that. I don't think they're all involved reptilians running our world, to be honest. I mean, and I've seen some weird things over time, that to me it just seems like they're observing us. If anything, they're just watching.
If anything, yeah. And there's also, all sorts of different entities that exist here too, right?
True,
That
true, true.
would love for you to believe that they were something other than what they actually are. That's what
Right,
tricksters
right,
do, right? So
right,
yeah.
right, right. What is the best advice you could give anybody right at this moment in time?
Oh man, I don't know. That's
Okay,
um
well, I got a different one
we
for
give
you. What
ourselves
makes your heart beat?
uh creation. Like you're just remembering that you're part of the creation here. That's why you're here. Don't worry about, ascending to be something other than what you are right now. Just be the best version of who you are right now, because you have the opportunity to be an alien. You have the opportunity to do all of that in all sorts of other lifetimes. Your soul is going to have billions of these experiences, and just enjoy the one you're having while you're here. And anything you can do to optimize your ability to enjoy that doesn't hurt other people is what you should be doing.
And as a child of the cult, what could you say to anyone that wants, I don't know, is involved in a cult, wants to start a cult, that is researching cults?
I don't know. If you're in one, um, get out if you can. That's the best thing to do. If you're thinking about joining one, just don't. And the best thing to do is, I do think that everyone should understand cult psychology, though. Like, I think that you should know how it works because it'll help you identify what a cult is, and the fact that all of these different groups are essentially cults when they get to a certain point. And yeah, it's the kind of phrase I have for that is, you should absolutely learn how to manipulate people, but you should absolutely not manipulate people.
Okay, give us three signs that you're in a cult.
Uh, Blind belief, not really checking, not doing that. Um, an individual, the way that it makes you feel, fear and hopium is is are the two drugs, right? That's
Hmm.
what it creates. And yeah, the anything that's telling you that them over there are bad, right? And that they need to have some sort of punishment would be the biggest red flag. And that's why, like sayings like ascension being depopulation. If we have to create a whole other dimension because humans are so bad, then I don't think we're getting the point here, right? And I think we might be in a cult, or I think we might. to occult ideology.
I mean, yeah, if you're doing crazy stuff for your leader, then yeah. Okay, so is there any way that you have got something off the cuff for us that's funny?
Oh man, I don't know.
Pull it out
Yeah,
your butt. No.
probably not. Oh man, I
Do
don't know.
you rehearse your stuff, or do you write it before, or you just get it in the mood and you're good?
With Fear and Hope, I did. I guess the first three, I didn't write anything, and then at that
Mhm,
point, I started writing myself a bit of a script. But the way I do it is, I pick three. It's fear and hopium, so I pick three
mhm.
different topics that kind of fit that, and then I write the title and I start writing. It's hilarious. I was talking about this last night on a different podcast, but I have notes in my phone that are just like
Mhm.
bits for it. And anytime I've ever gone to write an episode, I haven't had to look at any of them because the as soon as I see the name, like a little foreshadowing of the next one, Tartaria, in front of me, it just starts pouring out because
Okay.
I've heard so much, and most of it, like I said, the jokes write themselves. If you really just start talking through what people believe about this stuff, the jokes start writing themselves. And so that's all I do. And then obviously, I can't see while I'm performing them. Like that's the
Well,
sunglasses,
right, you have the glasses and the gloves and
or I'm wearing a sleep
everything.
mask, something like that. So it will be like I read a page and I kind of memorize it, and then I deliver it. I look back over the page to make sure that I at least hit everything, and if I've hit everything, then I move on to the next page and go from there.
Well, I've laughed several times since you started it. It's pretty interesting. What made you actually how long have you had it going, and then what made you start it now, I guess?
It's only been a couple months. I've been making them pretty quickly. I'm trying to do like one a week. They're not very long. I've been
Right,
talking
right.
about it for years, though. Yeah, I've been talking about just a long time ago when I realized just how much blind belief people put behind the ruiner. Before I ever spoke, before I ever did a podcast, just I was kind of worshipped, even though nobody knew who I really was. Right? I was just a character who was writing a blog at that point in time, and I've been thinking about doing it ever since then because I was like, it would be really easy to Andy Kaufman this, right, and just come out and play that role, and but I just have too much personal integrity. I couldn't do that. So the other option would be doing it as a parody. And so I've been talking about doing it for years. I've just not necessarily lazy, just doing other things. Never really thought about it, and then yeah, just got the inspiration one day to give it a shot, and it seems to be working, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. So I'll keep going.
So, your music, you've been doing a lot of acoustic I can't say it, acoustic music lately. Are you gonna continue that? Are you gonna be in a band again, or
Well, the one band that I'm in, Unraveling, it's more of a recording project than a real band. There's really only the
Mhm.
two of us, but we're doing a third album right now. So the acoustic videos that I was putting on social media, and I also on my Patreon, I do little videos called Shaynard's Cave, which is just me jamming acoustic videos. I do that as practice. I think it's practice to record vocals for the new album.
Okay, well, if you wanna plug your shows, where they can find you, where they can you can help them with magic, whatever they need, go ahead and plug yourself.
Sure. Well, if you go use the link tree URL after the slash Shane underscore Sador, you'll find everything there. It's Shane Sador Storyteller on Patreon. You could email me at with no capitals shane.sador777 at gmail.com. If you're interested in the magic class, there's a free introduction call where we talk about how the class is, how the class works, what it is, before you are obligated to sign up for it. I think that's kind of it. Fear and Hopium on Instagram, or no, sorry, YouTube and Rumble. Now I just put it up on Rumble as well.
Mhm.
Apparently, people
Alright,
like
well
to use it.
well, I'm gonna cut it here. My dog's getting a little rambunctious. I think she wants me to let her out, so I think I'm gonna stop it here even though we got a couple minutes left. But, I think this has been great. The information that you shared, I think most people can't get. They really don't understand that. A lot of people, understand these cult-like behaviors, and have been into this for a while now. So, like, Like, once again, thank you, and maybe once I get going later on, you could come back and help us out more so with these cults. Okay.
Anytime.
All right. Thank you.
Bye, guys. And the dodo machine is a simulation machine that resets itself every 1 in 69 years. So our current timeline started 169 years ago. And every 169 years, the dodo machine creates a dodo event. And the dodo event is when history re-rolls itself back to 169 years ago, and the whole thing restarts. Now, in order to facilitate this ruse, the dodo machine also creates mud floods. And the mud floods bury everything humanity created in the last 169 years. At the beginning of the new 169 years, the evil reptilians roll in some incubators. And with the incubators, they make 144,000 new bodies. And they take the only 144,000 souls here in this simulation, and they force incarnate them into those bodies. Now, the billions of other people here right now, they ain't real. Most of them are NPCs. Only 144,000 of us are special. I mean, only 144,000 of us actually have souls. So the billions of people who disappear every time the dodo machine creates a dodo event, that don't matter because most of them were NPCs anyway.